Hello friends, welcome to Fiber Art. I'm going to teach you today how to sew a few different types of stitches, and then I'll teach you how to actually make something like a little ugly doll out of sewing. So in the Fiber Art Center you will find fabric, thread, you will not find needles, you need to check these out from Mrs. Butner, and you will find pins, other things like buttons in the Fabric Center. Now, when you are selecting your fabric and your thread, make sure your thread is actually what we call embroidery thread. This is thin. You don't want to grab yarn. Yarn is way too thick to sew with. It will never poke through the fabric well enough, so you need to grab the thread. It should be in the bin that says thread. Now, when we thread our thread onto our needle, what we need to do is we need to take a big long piece. I suggest a piece that is as long as your arm length. Cut that piece off. Now, when you are putting your thread into your needle, you want to look for the hole in the needle. That's this little part on the top here. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. That little hole on the top there is where you want to put your thread in. Now, you're going to find the end of your thread. Sometimes it's easy enough to just poke this through at the end, like this. Sometimes you might need to just take a little loop and push the loop through. This is easier, I think, because sometimes the thread at the end gets a little bit what we call frayed, and so it just gets a little thick at the end. So looping it will help. Now, I'm gonna put my needle all the way in the middle of the thread so that these two ends meet each other. Now I'm going to tie these two in a knot. It's important to have a knot at the end of your thread so that the thread doesn't go through the fabric when you sew it. So a nice secure knot there. All right, so I'm ready to sew now. Here's my fabric. I'm going to show you how to do two different types of stitches. One is called a running stitch, one is called a whip stitch. Both are totally fine, it just depends on what you like. So I have my two pieces of fabric. Notice how they're the same size. I want to sew them together. So I'm actually going to put them side by side here with the colorful part facing together. Because at the end, we're actually going to flip it inside out. I'll show you how to do that. Now you can start anywhere. What I suggest when you start is to grab some pins. Pins are not needles. They are sharp, so be careful though. They're just these little pokey things, and what you do is you stick the end into your fabric and then pull it through so that it helps your fabric stay together while you're sewing. I like to put just one pin at the top, one at the bottom. You could do more pins if you feel like you need more. Totally up to you. I could put pins here too if I wanted to. Now, I'm going to start sewing at the corner here. It doesn't matter where you start, but you want to go all around the edges. So I'm going to start by pulling this needle through. Notice how it stopped when it got to the knot. See, I can't pull it through anymore. So now I'm going to show you a running stitch first. So a running stitch is where you go in and out, in and out. It's kind of like weaving. So you have to keep flipping your fabric basically. So my thread is poking through this side. So now I'm going to leave a little space, not more than like an inch, poke my needle through and pull it. So you can see I have one stitch. Now my thread is poking through this side. So I'm going to leave a little inch space and pull. And now I have a stitch on this side. I'm going to go to this side, leave a little space, and pull. So now you can see I'm starting to have multiple stitches. So this is a running stitch, that's what it's called. Now a whip stitch is when you basically go around. I like this one better. I think it just works better for me, but it's up to you what you use. So a whip stitch is where you poke through the same side and you're going around the fabric and your stitch is basically on top. So you're going to see your stitches on top instead of through. So now I'm going to go around again. And I'm leaving a little space each time, just like a little tiny inch each time. So you can see I have two stitches now that go around the fabric. And again, I'm going to go around. And I have my third stitch. Okay, so it's up to you what you do. It does not matter to me that is basics of how you sew.